Filipinos caught a glimpse of China during the visit of Madame Imelda Marcos to Peking in September 1974. This was the first major step towards rebuilding historic links between the Philippines and China, severed in the recent past by the politics of the Cold War. It was also a prelude to a more momentous event, the opening of formal diplomatic relations between the two countries. This shift in Philippine foreign policy made it entirely fitting that President Ferdinand Marcos himself leads the Philippine delegation to China. A generation of Filipinos and Chinese had grown to manhood in almost total ignorance of each other. The President himself had spoken of the urgent need to learn about China. No delegation, however large, could compensate for over 25 years of mutual isolation.
Your coverage of the visit of the President and also your coverage of China in general will certainly help to further develop the friendship and understanding between our two peoples and between our two countries.
The cooperation between Chinese and Filipino representatives was simply another sign of the importance that both governments gave to the event. Working closely with Philippine Special Envoy Governor Benjamin Romualdez, the Chinese officials plotted the programs for the three groups which would compose the Philippine delegation. The group of private businessmen and university representatives, and the parties respectively headed by the President and the First Lady. A team of television technicians and managers had preceded the presidential party to be able to transmit the details of the visit via satellite from the moment of touchdown at Peking International Airport. With an immediacy denied other media forms, television captured the simplicity and the spontaneous joy, the warmth and humanity of the Chinese people. It was the most elaborate welcome ever accorded a non-communist Asian leader. The Philippines became the 100th nation to recognize Peking as China's seat of government. The establishment of relations chalked a major success in China's campaign of rapprochement with the nations of Southeast Asia.
The wise
jet flight across the China Sea is a giant leap across hostilities and fears of the Cold War.
I have journeyed today on a mission for the 42 million people.
And Madame Marcos, daughters Irene and Aimee, and a select group of government officials and wives arrived to a rousing reception in Peking. The Philippine party was one of the largest foreign delegations to visit the People's Republic of China. President Marcos, the first Filipino president ever to have visited Peking, made a journey of reconciliation and of hope, a passage into another world, alien in culture, massive in scale, radically different in political orientation. Two hours after the arrival of the official party and the conclusion of the airport ceremonies, Chairman Mao Zedong himself received the president and his family. In a villa outside Peking, the meeting between the two heads of state lasted for more than an hour. It was one of the longer audiences given by the chairman in recent years. When the president told Chairman Mao that he had come to formalize relations with the Chinese government, Chairman Mao responded with applause and remarked, "It takes two hands to clap." The audience with the venerable leader of the People's Republic of China was followed by a meeting with Prime Minister Zhou Enlai. President Marcos described the premier as vigorous in mind and body, well-informed, and in touch with the most recent events. But the responsibilities for the visit fell on the shoulders of Vice Premier Deng Xiaoping, who accompanied President Marcos on all his tours. Openness was the theme throughout the visit. Dropping the defenses of the past, the Filipinos had come willing and eager to learn from China. The Chinese matched the enthusiasm of the Filipinos with an almost extravagant show of hospitality to the delegation and an exceptional display of official honors for the president. The party which joined the president included representatives from diverse sectors of Philippine society, from business and the arts, from mass media and the universities, from the public agencies concerned with population control and nutritional care, agriculture and trade, local government and economic planning.
President Marcos' current visit to China, though short, has achieved complete success. His Excellency the President met Chairman Mao Zedong and had a friendly conversation. His Excellency also met Premier Zhou Enlai. Our two sides held talks on international questions of common interest and on further developing the relations between China and the Philippines.
Today, historical experience and realism both bid us to be less emotional and more objective. We would engage our emotions to do so on the basis of an authentic Asian identity. It is on this basis that we now look at the whole world, our region, and ourselves. And the old modes of thought can no longer sustain us, nor can they sustain any other country in Asia. And thus we must reassess our alliances. We must restudy our destiny. In short, go out into the world. We are Asians. We live in Asia. Our destiny is in Asia, and our thoughts and policies must be remodeled in accordance with these unchangeable facts.
The state banquet in Peking provided the occasion for recalling the friendly relations that had existed between China and the Philippines in the past and for celebrating their restoration. For the President, the 5-day visit meant a tightly scheduled round of close conferences with the Chinese leaders, public appearances at official functions, and tours of various organizations and establishments. The tours arranged for President and Mrs. Marcos and the Philippine delegation gave concrete examples of the way China had mobilized the physical and spiritual energies of the population towards the task of building a proudly self-reliant nation. Self-reliance in the areas of agriculture, industry, and internal defense was the focus of several visits. When he visited the Red Star Commune outside central Peking, President Marcos saw for himself the impact of combined ideological fervor and rigorous discipline. The commune occupies 160 square kilometers of reclaimed swamplands. Some 10,800 hectares are planted variously to grains, cotton, vegetables, and fruit trees. The population of 82,000 divide themselves into production brigades. Together, they work all aspects of the land: irrigation and reservoir building, scientific farming, livestock, and poultry raising. The people also share in the manufacture of equipment and machinery. As a unit, the commune succeeds in the combined administrative and production operations and is a model of China's distinctive lifestyle. Crucial to China's success was the achievement of national unity, especially unity with the masses. In cadre schools, students learn chiefly to work with the masses, to integrate themselves with a broad base of workers and peasants. Of China's 800 million people, 42 million belong to different ethnic groups. The Central Institute of Nationalities in Peking educates representatives of regional groups through different programs which serve the nation's needs for integration. The President was the first head of state to view military installations, infantry and tank maneuvers, and even civil defense measures. The People's Liberation Army also staged demonstrations of simulated defense maneuvers for the benefit of the presidential party. A target demonstration at the Yuepu military range, some 30 kilometers outside Shanghai, moved the president to a generous tribute for China's military prowess.
my country. Allow me to congratulate each and every one of you. I congratulate the children, the girls especially, and of course the men. It is my hope that I will be able to train our young men and women in my own country with the same standards that you have demonstrated this morning.
In Peking, the president explored a complex of defensive tunnels. Underneath the city's busiest streets stretches a tunnel which can be used as an air raid shelter equipped with water and air conditioning systems. Wherever they went, Filipino visitors marveled at the Chinese work ethic and the constant dedication to the ideals of their national struggle. The style of life was uniformly simple, even Spartan. The call for diligence, frugality, strenuous individual effort had fallen on fertile soil. But one monument to extravagance survived: the forbidden city of the Chinese emperors. Before the living presence of history, ideological ardor seemed to have faltered, and the reverence that men of all races and cultures instinctively feel for a thing of beauty overcame the revolutionaries' urge to obliterate the old order. Begun at the turn of the 15th century, on the 4th year of the reign of the Ming Emperor Yung Lo, the palace complex, which counted more than 9,000 rooms, took 14 years to complete, and at various periods had to undergo restoration. From the central halls of the principal palaces, the emperors of the Ming and Qing dynasties issued the edicts and performed the rituals upon which depended the prosperity of the people and the stability of the empire. The massive walls surrounding the extensive grounds now shelter the most complete and best preserved structures of ancient China. The palaces stand as a testament to the artistic skill and the technical craft of their builders, and the Chinese could not destroy the forbidden city without destroying something of themselves. But the forbidden city is forbidden no longer. The private domain of the emperors and their concubines have become a public museum and a people's park. And on an ordinary day, 10,000 visitors come from all over China to marvel, even grudgingly, at the splendor and the opulence of their past. A companion piece to the imperial palaces is the complex of burial tombs in the valley of Changling, about 2 hours' drive from the capital. The Emperor Yung Lo built as elaborately for death as he did for life. But the palaces and the tombs remain only as the empty relics of a vanished era. The imperial monuments have seen the last of the state ceremonies and religious rituals which gave them meaning and substance. Today, The ceremonial functions are celebrated not in the palaces of the emperors, but in the great hall of the people. Each day, for 10 months, over 14,000 people drawn from the different regions of China collaborated to build this seat of government and center of state functions. The simplicity of the Great Hall is a silent rebuke to the ornateness of the ancient palace complex. The upward slant of the golden roofs gives the palace an air of lightness, the impression that they might at any moment take wing and soar to the sky. The Great Hall, despite its towering columns, seems resolutely earthbound and conveys a sense of solidity, serenity, and strength. But the massive scale of its construction lent it a measure of majesty. Dominating the enormous Tiananmen Square, the Great Hall stands as a tribute to the Chinese people's great leap forward, which made its completion possible in the record time of 11 months. The Great Wall took far longer to build. 300,000 men labored for 10 years to raise a defensive barrier against invasion. The Great Wall, 21 feet thick at the base and 18 feet wide at the top, climbed up and down the rugged country along China's northern frontier for a distance of over 5,000 kilometers. The wall served not only as a defensive perimeter, but also as a highway of communications, reinforcements, and supplies. The historical sites visited by the Filipino delegation all testified to an extraordinary expenditure of human energy and talent. These monuments gave the visitors an insight into the rich heritage of Chinese culture. Highlight of the Peking visit was the return banquet hosted by the Philippine government.
It is my distinct honor and pleasure to announce tonight that before this dinner, we have the honor to tender in honor and for the distinguished Premier Premier Chu En-lai was represented here by Vice Premier Deng Xiaoping. A communique has been formally signed by me, and in representation of the Republic of the Philippines and Premier Chu En-lai in representation of the People's Republic of China, formally establishing diplomatic relations between the two countries.
On this occasion, Filipino guests introduced their Chinese hosts to the pleasures of Philippine cuisine and gave them token favors by which to remember the Philippines. A significant provision in the joint communique called for a policy of non-interference in each other's internal affairs. The two governments hold that the economic, political, and social system of a country should be chosen only by the people of the country. They maintain that the difference between economic, political, and social systems should not constitute an obstacle to peaceful coexistence and the development of peaceful and friendly relations. Bilateral trade agreements were also finalized that same evening, signed by Philippine Secretary of Industry Vicente Paterno and China's Minister for Foreign Trade Li Qiang. The trade communique is expected to broaden the market for Philippine products. On Sunday, July the 8th, the Philippine President, his family, and members of the delegation heard Mass at the lawn of the State Guest House. It marked the first time in China when a visiting head of state affirmed his Christian faith in an act of public worship. The intrinsic importance of the visit intensified friendships formed in the short span of 5 days. This sense of history drew both Chinese and Filipinos into a special feeling of unity, bound by their common participation in a momentous event. The atmosphere of warmth and easy gaiety prevailed at the banquet hosted by the Shanghai Municipal Revolutionary Committee. President Marcos's activities in the city of Shanghai recapitulated the dominant theme of his visit, a rediscovery of two peoples, a renewal of ties for two nations of Asia. The historic encounter raised many questions. Basic differences exist between China and the Philippines, but the barriers have begun to give way to the mutual understanding and appreciation of one another. Paradoxically, faith may lend that common ground on which to build a lasting friendship. For while communist ideology denies the existence of a divine being, the Chinese nonetheless have faith. A faith in the strength and power of the masses. A faith in the purity of their leaders' intentions. A faith in the final triumph of their nation.
As a student of China and of its history, I came to Peking ready to be impressed. But I shall leave inspired and encouraged in our own modest work in the creation of a new society for our people, for the transformation of China under the leadership of Chairman Mao Zedong is indeed the most noble monument of the invincibility of an idea supported by the force of the human spirit. It is the most outstanding example of self-reliance in the most massive scale.
Perhaps the point of reconciliation is the passion for the welfare of the masses that animates the true believer. That passion gave substance to the revolution of China. The same passion gave direction to the Filipinos' goals for the new society. It is the link which may provide the bridge between China and the Philippines. The bridge which President Marcos asserts will never be washed away.
Happy in the thought that we have reinstated a friendship that was initiated by my forebears many centuries back. During our stay in your beautiful country, you have extended to us such generosity and hospitality we cannot expect to reciprocate. You have given us the freedom to visit your countryside, and our conversations during the negotiations for the establishment of normalization, diplomatic relations between our two countries, as well as the other agreements on trade and cultural matters, have been on the highest level of cordiality and friendship, with accommodation coming from the People's Republic of China. But I shall live with new vigor and new hope.
Valdez Marcos, Governor of Metropolitan Manila, Minister of Human Settlements. Aside from these posts and responsibilities, she carries one more distinction. She is her people's pride and glory, her country's #1 ambassadress of goodwill. On this day, the 7th of June, 1982, Madame Marcos departs on another mission of importance for her president and her country. Destination, the People's Republic of China. This was the First Lady's 4th trip to the People's Republic of China. Her first visit in 1979 was considered a breakthrough. It paved the way for the formal opening of diplomatic relations between the Philippines and China the following year with the state visit of President Marcos. Mrs. Marcos last visited China in 1979. This time, her purpose was a multifaceted one. There was the economic aspect of her mission, the possibility of opening markets in that country for products of the National Livelihood Program, the Kilusang Kabuhayan at Kaunlaran. There were talks of a possible need for Filipino labor in the proposed construction of a first-class hotel to be undertaken by a local firm. And, of course, the prospects of increasing the demands for the country's traditional exports like coconut oil and copper. There was also the political phase of the trip, the nagging issue of Kampuchea that has threatened the stability of the whole of Southeast Asian region. These and other matters occupied the mind of the First Lady as her plane lifted off the runway. The First Lady and her delegation arrived in Peking after the 4-hour journey from Manila. Welcoming her upon her arrival at the Peking Capital Airport were the National People's Congress Standing Committee Chairman, Si Zhong-sun, and Special Advisor Han Yang-long.
Very well, thank you. Very well, thank you.
Mrs. Marcos's party consisted of Natural Resources Minister Teodoro Peña, Food Minister Jesus Tanchanco, Philippine Airlines Chairman Roman Cruz Jr., AFP Chief of Staff General Fabian Ver, and Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister Manuel Colliantes. Anticipating a hectic schedule ahead of them, the Philippine delegation was quickly whisked away to the official guest house, where the party was to stay while in Peking. With barely enough time to unpack, Madame Marcos was escorted to an afternoon meeting with Chinese Premier Xiao Ziyang, her first major engagement. The meeting took place at the Ziguang Hall of Zhongnanhai, the official residence of the Chinese Prime Minister. Premier Xiao Ziyang welcomed the First Lady as she disembarked from her limousine. Their talks focused mainly on the current turmoil in Kampuchea. The Five-Nation Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, of which the Philippines is a member, is clearly divided on the search for a political solution to the Kampuchean problem. Kampuchea is presently ruled by a regime installed by a Vietnamese occupation force numbering about 200,000 soldiers. Three major opposition groups within Kampuchea are in a stalemate in their attempts to form a coalition against the Hanoi-backed regime in Phnom Penh. The impasse stems primarily from disagreements on the form such an alliance should take and the division of responsibility among the three groups. China provides military and diplomatic support to the principal opposition group, the Khmer Rouge, while the two other movements are led by former head of state Prince Norodom Sihanouk and by former Premier Son Sann. Despite the controversy and disagreements, all five nations of ASEAN, together with China, are unanimous in their determination that Vietnam must withdraw from Kampuchea. In other topics touched during the lengthy discussion, Premier Zhao Ziyang briefed Mrs. Marcos on China's political situation and economic development programs. The Chinese premier also expressed satisfaction with the way the relationship between the Philippines and China has developed since it was established in 1975. He recalled his visit to the Philippines last year, which gave him an opportunity to witness the continuing success of the Philippines under President Marcos. Their talks lasted for 1 hour and 40 minutes. Later that evening, Premier Zhao hosted a state banquet in honor of the First Lady at the famous Great Hall of the People.
Deputy Chief of General Staff.
At the banquet table, Premier Zhao recounted how the two countries established formal relations 7 years ago to the day when the President and Mrs. Marcos paid a visit to Peking for the first time. The Prime Minister concluded his speech convinced that the current visit to China by the First Lady will further strengthen friendly ties between the two countries.
在马可斯总统阁下的领导下，菲律宾政府和人民在发展国民经济和民族文化的事业中所取得的重要成就。那次访问给我留下了亲切的和难忘的回忆。今天是6月7号。